Hi, welcome back to Examining Life, a life that's worth living. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And today I am back at the University of Ghana. Before we continue, first I would like to thank my subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and click the red rectangle to subscribe. I would also like to thank my patrons. Thank you very much for your donations. I greatly appreciate your support. And today we are going to be discussing Pan-Africanism. So today's question is, what are your thoughts on Pan-African philosophy? And for those who may not be aware of Pan-African philosophy, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, Pan-Africanism is, quote, the idea that peoples of African descent have common interests and should be unified. Historically, Pan-Africanism has often taken the shape of a political or cultural movement, end quote. So who am I speaking with today?
My name is Hadi Yakubu. I'm with an organization called Economic Fighters League, which is a youth movement fighting for economic freedom in Ghana.
Ah, that's very interesting. And what are your thoughts on Pan-African philosophy?
Well, the organization I belong to professes the ideology of Nkrumahism. And once you mention Nkrumah, naturally you are a Pan-Africanist. So I believe that Pan-African philosophy is a liberating philosophy. It's a philosophy that speaks to the inner core of the African and preaches the unity of the Africans wherever they may be. We need to do more to let people understand what that philosophy is and to follow the ideals and principles therein.
So how does the organization that you are a part of for economic freedom tie in with Pan-African philosophy?
Because of our ideology of Nkrumahism, Pan-Africanism is one of the pillars of our operation. So we collaborate with other Africans from all over the world, be they in Europe or America or Tanzania or wherever. We believe that the ultimate goal of Pan-Africanism is to unify all Africans. And Nkrumah said in the book Class Struggle in Africa that all people of African descent, be they in Africa, be they in Europe, be they in the Americas, they are Africans and they belong to the African nation. So the notion of African nation, it tells you the oneness and the unity that is embedded in it. So we believe that ultimately we have to work for a united Africa, and we have to make sure that Africa becomes one. And that's the ultimate. When we achieve that, we can be sure that we will achieve economic freedom for everyone.
How do you define economic freedom exactly? What does that look like in practice, according to your organization?
And in practice, simply, economic freedom means that nobody has to wake up and be wondering where they are going to get their breakfast from. Nobody has to work the whole day and not be able to go back to a house to go and rest. Nobody has to go to bed not knowing whether they will wake up on an empty stomach or not. So economic freedom basically means that people have to have a decent living. And in order to ensure that, we need to take full control of our natural resources. Because if you look around, gold, the oil, everything is owned and controlled by multinational companies which are not necessarily interested in our well-being. They are only interested in reaping their profits and going away with it. So we need to take ownership and control of our natural resources so that we can reap the full benefits from them and use those benefits to make sure we provide decent living for everybody, every African, everywhere. This is not to say that Africa must just chase away everybody else. No, but nobody accepts the situation where somebody comes into his house and takes over everything that is in the house, and then he becomes a beggar. Nobody accepts that kind of situation, but that's the kind of situation that Africa has been in for a very long time. We think that in order for economic freedom to be achieved, in order for everybody to have a decent living, in order for everybody to be able to work and earn a decent wage, in order for everybody to have decent shelter, in order for everybody to have enough to eat and clothing to wear, we need to have control of all of this. If you look at the trajectory, Kwame Nkrumah wrote a book called Neo-Colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. In that book, he chronicles how former colonial thieves continue to steal from the former colonial territories. He talked about the tools that are being used, and some of them are very clear. Multinational companies, international multilateral organizations like the IMF and the World Bank, media and entertainment like Hollywood, like BBC, like all these European and American organizations that seek to, through media and entertainment, control the minds of the world. We shouldn't kid ourselves. The United States is competing with us or with everybody else for not just for the resources that the earth can offer, but also for control and domination. And so, to subject ourselves continually to the World Bank and the IMF is to perpetually subject ourselves to the United States, which has its own interest, which interest has historically been shown to be completely opposite ours. So we need to make sure that we get rid of IMF and World Bank controlling us. Let's not forget about the historical antecedent to all of this. They came in with the structural adjustment policies, which then made sure that our state-owned enterprises were privatized, and by the privatization, all these foreign entities, mining and oil companies, had to come in and take over, all our resources. And they came touting about economic growth and all of that. But of what use is economic growth if the ordinary person cannot feel it in their pockets? It's absolutely useless. But that's the situation that we've put in. We need to get rid of the World Bank and the IMF, absolutely. But then we have to make sure that we don't have to go to them for help, because that's when they have the leverage to then tell us what to do. If only our leaders on this continent, people I will call even misleaders, they claim to be leading, but virtually they've ceded their authority to the World Bank and IMF, and they only implement what the World Bank and the IMF tell them to do. So these are completely not leaders. But if these people who are in charge would only apply a little bit of common sense and do the kind of things that are needed to be done for us to have our own economic system, have our complete economic independence, then we wouldn't have to go to IMF, we wouldn't have to go to the World Bank, and then they will have absolutely no leverage to tell us what to do. Coming to China and other places. China was a friend of Africa during the days of decolonization and all of that. But things seem to have changed. If you study China, I feel like we need to look within, because Kwame Nkrumah said that African problems can only be solved by African solutions. So the way geopolitical interests have evolved, it is clear that we cannot rely on a friend in the geopolitical arena. We need to look within, seek our own solutions, and make sure that we always put African interests first.
I completely agree that everything that you mentioned is definitely in the best interest of Ghana and Africa at large. Obviously, the state actors that are competing for power, the US and former colonizers and whatnot, want to maintain a certain degree of power. And I understand that they have to do what's best for them, but then you have to do what's best for you. What do you think is a solution to do so where everyone can kind of win, but also in a peaceful manner? Because I guess a fear that I would have is that if it gained power or too much power, or threatened the power of the other powers, then there would be some conflict. But I agree, I'm agreeing with you that I think that it's important to do what's best for Africa at large. But I don't know, what do you think on that?
Well, Kwame Nkrumah in Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare said that everything economic is political and everything political is military. So the United States has military footprints all over Africa. That's unacceptable. China is now building military posts in Djibouti, Gabon, and other places. All these European countries also have their military ships and whatever across our borders and in our waters. Why? Because they want to, first of all, intimidate us, to say that we are watching you. And if you make a move to reassert your independence, we will come in. That's basically what they are saying. So the notion of gaining economic liberation for Africa through peaceful means is a question that has to be posed to the imperialists. Because we don't have any military bases in their countries. We don't send any military interventions anywhere near their territories. Why do they feel like they need military bases in our countries if they are so peaceful and if they are so minded about doing things through peaceful means? Clearly they are not. Currently, the United States has destabilized numerous countries in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. A lot of countries have been destabilized through military means by the United States, in close collaboration with the United Kingdom and the NATO. If you look at Libya, for instance. So if we want to reassert our economic liberation and all we get is agitation and military antagonism, I think the question of achieving this within an environment of peace is not to be posed to us. That question must be posed to the imperialists.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments below what you think of Pan-African philosophy. What are the benefits of Pan-African philosophy and what are some challenges that might come with the implementation of Pan-African philosophy? Thank you. Happy travels. Bye.